What is up, and welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. As you should know by now, Shohei Ohtani signed with the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm a Dodgers fan. However, I know an even bigger Dodgers fan who is a friend of not only mine, but also the show. Wanted him to come on, talk about the experience and how this baseball free agency went from something where everyone was complaining about how boring it was to probably the most interesting baseball story of the year. So I'm joined by none other than Brett Gosnell. Brett, how are you doing?
How are we doing? Merry Christmas.
Nice, very festive sweater. If you're not watching us on YouTube, you need to go look at his very nice Christmas sweater. Doing good. So yeah, this is something we've been talking about since the beginning of last season, really, with the Dodgers signing Shohei. What has it been like not only just like waiting for us to get to free agency, but then from there, what does it mean for him to sign? And then kind of tell us what made this insane.
Yeah. So first of all, he is, I think it's safe to say, the best baseball player of all time. I don't know if I want to use the word greatest, because then you have to get into accomplishments, like how many rings did they have, this and that. And he's played with the Angels too long. He never even made the playoffs his first 6 years over here because he played with a bad team. Played for years in Japan, so he was kind of coming over here a little later. So I don't know if he'll be the most accomplished player ever. But as far as the most impressive, most talented player of all time, I don't think there's any debate whatsoever. The guy is a top 5 pitcher in the game and a top 5 hitter in the game. I mean, I'm actually reading his biography right now, and I didn't realize one game last year he threw one of the hardest pitches in the game, like the top 98th percentile hardest pitch thrown in a game, and hit a ball with the exit velocity top like 99 percentile within 3 minutes of each other. Like he pitched, he threw this pitch one and then come up to bat the next day. He did all this within like just a few minutes. So anyway, it's nothing like we've ever seen before. I mean, if it'd be like if Pat Mahomes, went out there and played corner and got 2 interceptions after he led a touchdown drive. I mean, it's just, it's unreal. But anyway, that's the guy we're talking about. So, obviously he's a free agent. He was a free agent after this season. So biggest, media frenzy baseball free agency story you could ever dream of. But he's very, very quiet, reserved, doesn't like to let people know what he's doing, where he's moving, what he's thinking. So the media is just trying to get whatever little pinpricks of information they can get. But he's not letting anything get out. He's not letting any leaks get out. So that's kind of the environment we were in as soon as the season ended. So this all culminated in, without any question for me, one of the funniest, funnest, wildest sport days of all time, in which no game was played. So a few Fridays ago, so a little bit more context, the Dodgers were the presumptive favorite to sign him because we have a lot of money. It was going to cost a lot of money to sign him. He wants to win after not making the playoffs for 6 years, playing for the dog shit Angels organization. He wanted to go somewhere where he knew he'd get to go to the playoffs. The Dodgers are always in the playoffs. So it just made a lot of sense. We've been after him since he was in high school. We tried to sign him straight out of high school in Japan. So anyway, it was an obvious fit, but several other teams were getting in on him. Started to get more and more rumblings that the Blue Jays were a legitimate contender. They've got a lot of money too up there. And he had flown. One little piece of info that got out was he flew to the Blue Jays spring training facility in Florida and met with them there earlier in the week that I'm about to start talking about. So that's about all we knew. And then all of a sudden on this Friday morning, somebody on Reddit found that a private jet from Anaheim, California was about to take off and go to Toronto. This is not a common private jet route. So that's why it was notable. Like, it had been weeks and weeks since this flight had been made. So it made sense. It piqued my interest for sure. I watched this plane all damn day.
At this point in things, I know we talked, and I'm getting impatient wanting him to sign. Where was your patience level as far as by the time we reached takeoff for the plane?
I was just nervous because I was not nervous at all off season because we were the favorite. It just made too much sense for us to sign the guy. Our damn team doctor did his Tommy John surgery. I mean, there's just so many things that pointed to us. And then, the further it went along, maybe you were impatient. I just got more and more nervous because, like, the longer it went, I was like, something might be up. And then I knew he met with the Blue Jays in Florida, like toward their spring training facility. Well, that sounds serious. And then when this plane takes off, I believed it was him. Who else is going to fly from John Wayne Airport in Anaheim to Toronto? Anybody like you would normally think flying a super big business guy or whatever, they're going to fly to LAX or whatever, downtown LA. This is weird for a private jet to be taken off out of Anaheim, but that's where closest airport to where Shohei was living, having played with the Angels. So everybody assumed it was Shohei. I tracked this plane all day. And then in the middle of the day, John Morosi, who we will talk a lot about this episode. If you don't know who he is, he's a well-respected baseball journalist. He's not a hack by any means. He's on MLB Network. He's a guy you're supposed to be able to trust. He tweets out, matter of fact, before the plane even become a thing, he had went on Dan Patrick or one of those shows and talked about how the Blue Jays are legit. Watch out for the Blue Jays. They've got a good chance. So then the plane starts coming. And then Ken Rosenthal, middle of the day, when this plane's over Colorado or somewhere like that, he tweets out, Shohei is on his way to Toronto. And then right after that, a Dodgers, I don't know if beat writer is the right word because he writes for one of the websites, Dodgers Nation, but again, a prominent, well-known website. He comes out and says straight up, Blue Jays got Shohei. He's the first guy to come out and actually say this. JP Hornstra. He gets the vote on the Hall of Fame of baseball, whatever that union thing is. He gets association is. So he's legitimate too. So he tweets this out. Nobody else picks it up though. So you're just praying maybe these people are wrong. And then more notable journalists come back and say, no, Shohei's at his house right now in California. So then you're like, well, who's on the plane? And by this time, the Canadian brought CBN, I guess, whoever their main news network is up there, they've got all these cameras on the runway and journalists waiting on the plane to land because they think it's Shohei. And it turns out it's the guy from Shark Tank, whose last name I won't even start to pronounce. But, that's who it turned out to be. The
Robert from Shark Tank.
Yeah, Robert from Shark Tank. So,
is that the funniest person it could have been?
I think so. I mean,
it's just so
the
random.
fact that it's somebody you knew that you've heard of.
Yes, it wasn't like me. Like you, like, oh well, I don't know that guy, but it's someone you know. And also like a low, like he's not a huge celebrity either.
Yeah.
He's just a random guy.
Yeah.
He's like at
It's
a
the perfect
weird level
of, yeah, it's the perfect level of, I know him enough to laugh at it, but it's low enough that it's funny.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was just hilarious. And he had no idea why these people are waiting on him at the runway. Even he understood I'm not this famous. He knew something was up. His ego wasn't so big that he was like, hey, I'm home, guys. Welcome. You know? He knew
thought Mark Cuban died or something.
Yeah. He said I think he said the pilot or somebody was like really upset, like really disappointed. The pilot should have always known who was on the plane. Maybe one of the air traffic people at the airport, like once they realized it was only him, they were very upset with their like official announcement they made. Well, welcome to Toronto. You know?
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, just the joy that I had when I realized it wasn't Shohei was just, I was celebrating that as if a team actually had won that I was pulling for. And like I said, no game had been played that day. It was about tracking an airplane. And I mean, everything about it's so funny. It was discovered on Reddit. John Morosi apparently thought it was legitimate enough to where he tweeted out what he did. The JP Hornster guy fully went for it, hook, line, and sinker. So anyway, that's.
And this isn't like, might be new to baseball, but this is pretty common in college football where people are tracking planes to see which coach is going where.
Right. That's true. Yeah, I was very familiar with the plane tracking. That, like, I think for a lot of baseball guys that was a new thing, but I've known about the plane tracking. You know, this plane took out from Starkville. Are we getting Dan Mullen as our offensive coordinator? I've known that game for a while.
And so the funny thing about it is that Shohei, he signed the next day, and there's like this rush and desire for all of these people to be the first to break it. Like, I'm going to break the news of Shohei, to the point where people are tweeting out wrong news.
Yeah.
And who broke the news of Shohei signing?
Shohei himself. He just on his Instagram, just tweet, or whatever you call it when you put someone on Instagram, a Dodgers logo.
Nothing elaborate. Apologized for being late with his decision.
Yep.
Just said he was doing this. Just like, so no one got the scoop. That's what's really funny. Right. I actually found out about it from Shams Charania, the basketball guy.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I'd really love to know what he was doing all day when he was meant to be on this private jet flying to Toronto, and he's really just sitting at his house. Did he know what was going on?
What if he was? Is probably the best case scenario is he's not even paying attention to his phone. He's just like relaxing, trying to unwind, and he's trying to do this, take his mind off of everything by watching one of those Shark Tank marathons and just bring it full circle that way. I think that's the way to do it.
Oh my God. If he knew what was going on, he just let it roll too. That's what's so funny.
That
he either
would also
didn't know or he just let it roll.
He's like, it's not me. I don't know what they're talking about. But, and so there was, before we get into what in the hell is wrong with reporters, did you see this conspiracy theory where they floated the rumor, like Shohei's camp, that he was headed to Toronto to raise the Dodgers price?
Yeah. So that's a well-known tactic for agents or maybe front office people on the other side to use it, but to leak stuff to the press just for leverage purposes. Ken Rosenthal, who is a baseball journalist who you should put your life on, if he says something, it is 100% true. They asked him about that the other day, and he said he downplayed that. He said that does not happen nearly as much as you think it does. So I believe him, but It does happen. He said it does happen some, but he's like 99% of the time when you see a report, that's not what it is.
And I would lean to it not being true with Shohei simply because of the deal Shohei signed. Like, deferring all but $2 million a year. It just doesn't seem like a guy who was trying to squeeze every last penny out of a team. Not.
That's another fascinating thing about his free agency. He ends up signing a $700 million deal. So he's getting paid more than anyone ever. But believe it or not, he's not in it for the money. It's very clear. Obviously, the deferrals, like you say, he's only getting paid $2 million a year. And then another point someone made that's very true. He knew he didn't want to play in New York. He knew they were just out. He just did not have any interest in playing in the New York environment for whatever reason. He never engaged with those teams. If you're in it for the money, you're going to at least pretend like you want to play there, because you get both of those teams involved.
Oh my gosh.
The price goes up.
Yeah.
He never played that game. He never did that. So he's just a good person that loves baseball, and that all of this surrounded him is but clearly he's just in it for baseball purposes. But now going back to what you said about could the agent have leaked it and all that, I agree that did not happen in this case. But effectively on the Dodgers end, it did happen, because I've listened to some of them talk now. Friday night, all out the day Friday, even when it was shown he wasn't on the plane and all that, there was still so much smoke around Toronto that it still felt like they had a good chance. Like, even if it was the Shark Tank guy on the plane, maybe he's not signing right now, but it was still a lot of smoke around Toronto. The Dodgers went to bed Friday feeling like, man, we're in trouble. So I think they upped the offer like Saturday morning or Friday night. So it at least worked out that way.
Served the same purpose, whether it was intentional or not. That makes sense. And so I do want to get into the part that was interesting to me. And for those who don't know, you did write for the sports department at USC Upstate, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, just the school newspaper, yeah.
Yes. So a perfect journalist to have in on this. What is the value of the breaking news media guy? Because you mentioned Morosi, Schefter, Adam Schefter is the guy in the NFL, Shams, Woj. What are they doing? Because to me, it seems like their only purpose is to tell us stuff that we will eventually find out, which seems stupid.
Yeah. And to let us know what it is a minute before somebody else, like in the Twitter universe. I mean, I don't know. I've thought a lot about this, and I've tried to figure it out. Ken Rosenthal, who I mentioned earlier, he actually took time to talk about this on his podcast too, about what is the value in being first. And he has done it his whole life, and he said, I don't think there's any value at this point either. But I mean, basically somebody tweets it out, and then everybody else picks it up. And at best, the next person's tweet, they'll say, so-and-so had it first. That's the best you get. And most people probably don't even read that far down the tweet to even see that. Who cares one way or the other? I mean, I don't know. And any minor boost you may get in, a bigger Twitter following or whatever, because people know you're in the loop, you're going to get stuff out to them quickly. It has to be degraded by the risk of, if you're wrong, you're hurt, or so I thought until I've seen John Morosi just fucking smooth sailing like nothing happened. So maybe maybe there's no reward and there's no risk. So I don't know.
Because I think Morosi, he tweeted out an apology, I believe, and then it's just been like, that was it.
I can't believe it. Like, this was egregious enough and people were mad enough, rightfully so, that I really thought, like, his career is probably not over, but we're not going to hear from him for a while. He didn't miss a segment on his MLB Network appearances, man. He's been on there every day, just same dude, like nothing happened, just saying stuff like so-and-so's negotiating, so-and-so's the favorite. You're like, how can we believe what you're saying? You're just asking us to take your word on this shit.
Yeah, and how much is that worth now? Still has not told us if Toronto agreed to terms with Shark Tank guy.
Yeah.
And I think the thing that really encapsulates this aspect, the breaking news reporter to me, and how worthless they are, is how the NBA draft, and I talked about this during the draft episode, how Woj and Shams will tweet the pick prior to the pick being announced. And ESPN had Woj, like, they were like, Woj, if you're working for us, you can't do that. And so he would start, well, the Magic are lasered in on Cody Zeller or whoever, so he couldn't just say who was going to be picked. And it's just so pointless, because if we wait 30 seconds, we get this information. And then to get the information to give to us, he's got to be giving something up. And if you look at how Woj and Shams tweet about things, and Schefter too, good Lord, he's terrible. The bias that is coming off of it, you can immediately tell where it's coming from, because it'll be like some random tweet about some a training camp point guard who's not even going to make the final roster agreed to a non-guaranteed deal with the Nuggets. According to his agent, the incredibly handsome and charming. Like, it's just dripping with all these compliments. You're like, gee, I wonder how he got this information.
Yeah.
How could he have done it?
Yeah. And this makes me think, I was going to bring this reference up. Getting into the college football scene. So you have similar dynamics of you've got local guys like Gamecock Central, who I'm a member of, and they're all they talk about is the Gamecocks. They live in Columbia or in South Carolina, at least. They're just plugged in. They like know people on the coaching staff, and they're doing like real journalism in that they're like trying, their own feet on the ground, and even they've got to toe the party line a lot, and that's my main criticism of them. Because if you're getting info from an assistant coach, you can't then come out and say, well, this man sucks at his job, even though it's like Clayton White, he does.
Yeah.
So, but you compare the info that they put out to some of the national college football recruiting guys, and it's just shocking. And if you weren't a fan of a team and followed them, you wouldn't know it was inaccurate, because, like, if somebody tweets something about Ohio State, I don't know any better.
Yeah.
But in the example that really stood out to me with this was when Marcus Satterfield finished his last season as South Carolina's offensive coordinator. It was obvious, all the journalists on my website were saying all year, this man's probably not coming back. When the season's over, even, he did good those last couple of games, those guys were like, he's not coming back. I promise you. Beamer's probably not going to fire him, but he's going to get another job. I promise you he's not coming back. And then this national college football news guy reports, Nebraska beats out South Carolina. They offered him more money and Matt Rule got his man from South Carolina. And it's just, that's not true. It's not true. And it's so clearly coming from Nebraska.
Yeah.
Because they want it to seem like they didn't get a dog shit offensive coordinator, like we still wanted him.
And guess what we learned this year, folks? They did. And so I just don't know I go through and I think it's a symptom of a larger problem, which is something we're dealing with as a society, the attention economy. And it's basically whoever can get the most attention, you're the winner. Yeah. And there's always been some of that to a degree, obviously. Like, you have to be able to get attention you need an audience. A tree falls in a forest, doesn't make a sound. But it used to feel like, and I don't know if it was because I was more naive or what, but it used to feel like there was some sort of correlation between the value of what you put out and how good you were at what you did and the amount of attention you would receive. Like, it wasn't 1-to-1, but it was enough where you could see it. And now it's just like, well, you can say and do whatever. Yeah. So long as you're getting attention. In fact, you should be the most outlandish you could be in some instances, like with Skip Bayless or Stephen A. Smith sometimes. It's like, just be ridiculous and get attention that way.
Yeah. I will blame the average American consumer for this, because we're the ones who consume this shit. They wouldn't, if it didn't work, they wouldn't do it. I mean,
yeah.
And Ken Rosenthal, going back to him again, he made this point. He said, I'm not defending Morosi and the guys that are trying to break news quickly and taking the risk of being wrong, but that's what you want, listener. And he said, I know you want it because you're on Twitter to begin with, and that's what Twitter is. It's a way to get news rapidly, and you can't argue with that. Like, I was scrolling Twitter all fucking day, every day until Shohei signed. I didn't wait to see the newspaper the next day. I was on Twitter. So he's right. I mean, there is a market for that shit. And I don't know. You go back to like the Vietnam War era or whatever. Like, Walter Cronkite was the guy everybody watched. I mean, I guess there were a few other options, but that respected, down the middle, unbiased voice. He's not got a political lean one way or the other. If he says something everybody knows is true. Maybe people valued that more back then, or maybe they just didn't have an option. I don't know. But yeah, something has changed, and I put it at the feet of just the average human being.
Yeah, because that reminds me of, I don't know if you saw the clip on Twitter, might have been yesterday, it came out with George Santos sat down with Z-Way. Mm-hmm. And she was like, what do we have to do to make you go away? And he was like, stop inviting me right here. Yeah. He said, but you won't do it because you want the content. Yeah. And he was completely right, and just fucking shut her up, because that was an obvious mistake on her part, in my opinion. But he was dead right. Like, you can't help yourself. And it felt like we used to contain people who acted like that to like Jerry Springer.
Yeah.
But now you can come out and run for president and do whatever you want, no matter how crazy you act.
Yeah.
And there is some sort of reflection on us in the fact that you can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm sitting here now criticizing Morosi and all this shit, but I mean, as soon as we get done here, I'm gonna go back to Twitter and see where Yamamoto's signing and see what the rumors are on him. And if Morosi's got something to say about it, I'm gonna read it.
That's the cycle, because it's like, I'm criticizing the attention economy in the hopes of getting what? Attention.
Yeah.
So, well, let's go through and let's see who we can classify and criticize, since that's a lot of fun.
All right.
So we got the breaking news guys, Woj, Schefter, and Shams, and Morosi and Rosenthal. Well, first, who do you think is the worst, as far as not at breaking news, but just out of that group? Who do you think you hate the most? Just to keep with the jolly season.
Now it's Morosi. I hate Morosi the most, dude, because I hate how he's just back out there on the saddle like nothing happened. And like,
you got to at least pretend. you got to pretend to be sorry and embarrassed.
Yeah. I mean, that really bothers me.
I think it's Schefter for me because he'll do the same thing where he'll just put some shit out and it'll be straight from the front office or the agent of someone, and it's obvious, and it'll be wrong, and he'll just tweet right through it.
Yeah,
he just doesn't care. He did that with when Dwayne Haskins was run over.
Yeah,
and he was like, "Oh, Dwayne Haskins, who by the way, he was a failure. He was drafted too high." And it was like, okay, well, I don't know really what that has to do with this right now, like time and place. And people criticize him and he just doesn't care. And he had the thing that came out with the Commanders, the old Washington Redskins, where was like, I think he was emailing their owner the article before he published it, and included the note. He was like, "Let me know what you think, Mr. Editor." Yeah. How do you still have a career after that? I don't know.
Yeah, it's crazy. And I don't really care that much about the NFL, so I'm not that plugged in with him. But I remember on one of the draft or one of these shows where he was on the TV for a long period of time, they were talking about how he sleeps like 1 hour a night or some shit like that, and he's never off his phone, and he might go run 30 minutes, but then he comes right back to his phone, like, and it's for what? Like, just so you can be a minute faster than anybody? Like, I mean, I'm gonna do the I don't have to do the back in my day shit, because like you look at somebody like Ronan Farrow, that guy, that journalist, normal news, not sports news. He writes like one article a year, but it's like a fucking banger that takes out 1,000 people, and he's had to work on it for a year. He's had to work his ass off nonstop to get all the detail on this shit. It's like Schefter's working his ass off at the same level just so he can say so-and-so's getting drafted here like 1 minute before ESPN announces it.
It does seem terrible because I was reading something about Shams, and like he's got 2 phones, and his weekly screen time on each phone, like 17 hours a day or something absurd. And it seems terrible. They're volume shooters, and for what? Yeah. Like, it just makes no sense. You're not telling me anything new. You're just a mouthpiece who gives me news a little bit earlier than I would otherwise get it.
Yep.
And it's insane. So let's go. I think the next attention economy participant is going to be the debate show panelist, the Skips, the Stephen A., the Shannon Sharps of the universe. Man, this one, I think it's got to be Skip, but I don't know if you've seen Stephen A. and Shannon are for some reason getting into like delivering relationship advice.
I haven't seen that. Skip
hadn't started doing that yet, thank God. And I could kind of see where relationship advice from 2, as single as far as I know, men in their 50s seems pretty useless to me. And Shannon's I can see where this will go poorly.
Shannon's getting farted on with his romantic.
Yes, it's like these absurd. Like, first of all, I don't know if you're qualified to give me advice. Secondly, I've not found myself in these situations where I'm getting farted on regularly, where I need someone to advise me on how to handle it.
Yeah.
So I think Skip's the most hated one. But I think the thing about them that gets me is it seems not to be authentic. Like they're just arguing just to argue.
Yeah, I think so. Was Pardon My Take like the first time it was 2 guys talk? Not even
part
they
of the interruption.
Sometimes.
Yeah,
that's what. Okay, sorry, yeah. Kornheiser and Wilbon. That's what I meant to say. That show was good, and they argued sometimes but they agreed sometimes. It felt authentic. It felt like anytime somebody was putting forth an opinion, they believed it.
Yeah.
And then I guess ESPN saw when they argue, people like it. So then they just modeled everything else on, we've got to have these people arguing. And there's just no way you disagree on that much stuff, dude. There's no way. You can't disagree on every topic to the point of like wanting to fight each other over it. There's no way.
It's like the exhibit meme from back in the day from his time on Pimp My Ride. Like, I heard you like fish tanks, dog. So here's fucking, you're driving a fish tank now. Like, no. I think that's what it is. A sneaky part of this that I don't like is like JJ Redick. So I like JJ Redick on his own podcast typically, but then he will come and try to act like he's better than the debate show people on the debate show.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. Like, I remember one instance of this. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
It's like, you can't be holier than thou. It kind of is like Z-Way interviewing George Santos. Yeah. Like, you can't be holier than thou and participating. Like, you could just not be on the show if it meant that much to you. Yeah.
I can't remember. You'll remember, I'm sure, but the time I'm thinking of where he did this, he really got all preachy and was like, why are we doing this? We do this every day. Why? And it's like, where have you been? That's what they've done for 10 fucking years, dude.
Yeah. And he'll talk about how they'll have these production meetings and they'll have to like pick a side and pick the argument and everything. So this is going on. Like, you don't just show up and they just shock you. And they're like, JJ, we're not going to tell JJ what happens. We're just going to bring him on. And then we're going to do our WWE antics. Like, this is happening. It's terrible. What it's doing to sports discourse, because every idiot on social media can participate in this basic, we can argue about nothing. And you still participate in it. Like, I get the checks are good, but like, how much does it bother you if you're still doing it?
Yeah, right. So, I just thought of Colin Cowherd for some reason, and he has another person on there with him, but it's not argument. He's just talking essentially. And there's a million of him, Gottlieb, all these dudes that just talk every day for 4 hours. And I think that is emblematic of a lot of our issues, because there's no way every single day you have 4 hours of shit to talk about in sports. There's no way. That's a good point. So you've got to like come up with stuff. And it's, forgive me for getting a little political, but it's the same issue with like the 24-hour like CNNs and Fox Newses and all that. Like, you can't have breaking news every day, 24 hours a day, every day. There's not that much breaking news, There just can't be. And it's like when they have to come up with something to talk about, you're just creating problems. You're making shit up. I mean, I don't know. Like, I quit watching CNN when, like, during COVID, they covered one of Trump's press conferences, and he said nothing. He spoke like one sentence, and it was the most banal nothing. And I was like, okay, that was fine. He finally didn't say he wanted to kill people or like cage men. He finally got out there and didn't go nuts one time. So then they went back to the CNN talking heads, and they all just lambasted Trump over this. It's like, he didn't say anything. He's gonna say something tomorrow. I promise you. Just don't. You don't have to. You don't have to get on his ass tonight. He will give you something horrible tomorrow. Just wait.
The one day he's like reasonable and calm, well medicated, and they're like, nope. This sucks.
We still have an hour of content of getting on his ass. We got to do it. And that just really revealed. That was just such an eye-opening moment of how much bullshit just news media in general can be.
Yeah. And when you say someone talking for like 3 hours a day about sports, the first name that came to mind to me was Pat McAfee.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Who this has nothing to do. The only tie in here is we're going to talk about a COVID denier and Aaron Rodgers. But McAfee to me kind of embodies all of these things at once, in which he's trying to get attention. He's got to fill X amount of hours. He's not really telling you anything new, and he's got this access journalism portion of it where he's bringing on Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers was telling us that he was going to come back in weeks from tearing his Achilles. And Pat McAfee didn't question it. He didn't question it at all. He just said, sounds good. As someone who's torn their Achilles, like, the thing about it is it's the strongest tendon you have. And I was also someone who asked the doctor, let's say I had unlimited money or a gun to your head, how quickly can you get this back? And the Achilles tendon has to fuse together. There's no trick to it that they've discovered yet. It doesn't make sense that he would be able to somehow defeat human physiology, or whatever you call it. And McAfee just went with it. And he's also had an instance. This is just me ranting about McAfee, which I told you I wanted to do. So thank you. He also had an instance where he had some sort of misunderstanding with the NFL, where they told him he couldn't use their logos and their film. And it was like a 2-day disagreement. But he came on and he talked about how, we haven't been talking about your concussion lawsuits and all this bad stuff about your league, but now maybe we will, since you won't let us use the logos, which to me is despicable, because you could be reporting something, maybe telling us something new, but you haven't been to bend over for your corporate overlords. Yeah. Right. I hate that motherfucker, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of many, but like you said, he folds all of the bad things into one dude. And he really does.
It's impressive how he does it, because it's like Mike Greenberg of ESPN. Like, I used to watch Mike and Mike in the morning. Yeah. And it was perfectly fine, because it's just something easy to get you into the day and everything. Yeah. But you never would be like, I don't know how many people found Mike Greenberg to be entertaining, because he wouldn't really say anything.
He got more money than Golick, which was weird to me. Like, he makes a shitload of money.
Yes. Could not understand it, because he wouldn't say anything really controversial. He was more like the Cronkite type. Yeah. Like, I'm going straight down the middle, and here we go. And I saw someone tweet about McAfee, that McAfee operates in the same way as Greenberg, where he doesn't say anything really one way or the other. He just does it as though Mike Greenberg, his blood type was cocaine. Yeah. Like, if Mike Greenberg was made out of cocaine.
Yeah. Never saying anything controversial, but putting on all the airs like that you are being controversial. Yeah. Like, his controversy is he stands up on his desk sometimes.
Yeah, and he doesn't wear sleeves. That's his controversy. Like, I don't wear sleeves, and I might stand up here, and I'm going to do like this.
The mainstream media hates it that I don't have sleeves on my shirt. We don't give a fuck, boys. Like that kind of shit.
Yeah, it's just, I just can't wrap my head around it. And I have no conclusion to anything I'm saying, other than I don't understand how we got here and why this behavior is rewarded. Like, this man is he's telling you, I could report on something with the NFL, and I choose not to, because I want to have a good relationship with the NFL. He's saying the quiet part that the Schefters and everybody won't say out loud. And I don't see how people are okay with that. And Like, he's only pissed people off because he showed up to game day. Like, that's what people are mad about. Like, you should be mad at Pat McAfee, the being, in my opinion.
So, did you have any other as far as like?
No, I got to drink my tea and calm down a little bit. I'm getting too McAfee.
Who is somebody that we do like besides you?
Yeah, it's just me and Danny Foxworth. Now, it's getting tougher and tougher, and this is part of the problem because I feel like even the people who are good sometimes have to feed into all the bullshit to get noticed. So, man, I would have to think. Like, I mostly enjoy writers more than people who are doing something.
Yeah.
Well, there's a podcast I listen to called Dunker Spot with Nikias Duncan and Steve Jones Jr. They're reasonable. Some of their stuff's funny. And it's like analytical, but not hitting you over the head with stats. It's using stats to justify what they see on film as far as the NBA and WNBA are concerned. But it's really hard. So who do you have?
I mean, going back to the obscure to most people baseball guys, but Jeff Passan and Ken Rosenthal. I love those dudes. I mean, they don't get like Passan, especially. He really doesn't get like all into the rumors and shit. But if he reports something, and he was the first guy to report Shohei, I guess, because he just saw his Instagram before anybody else. But if he says something is true, he's never in a million years would he be wrong about something he puts out. And Rosenthal is like that too. And when Rosenthal does get into stuff, one, you believe what he's saying because he's never wrong. And two, he spends more time like gathering details about shit. You know, rather than spending all his time just trying to be 30 seconds before somebody else. He's trying to give you a more full-fledged breakdown of, you know, the Shohei Ohtani negotiations. Like, you know, like, I mean, well, you know, what's more valuable? Knowing who Shohei's signing with 30 seconds before somebody else, or once he does sign and it's announced, then going into somebody offered this. This person got on the phone with the GM, and then you got like a 20-page breakdown of how it like went down behind the scenes. That shit's interesting to me.
Yes, tell me something I would not have otherwise known. Yes. Not something that we're going to find out soon. And it's funny too, just going back to Shohei broke the news, and so players have these outlets where they can do that. And so I wonder what the lifespan is for those just pure newsbreakers. Really, like, what is it? If I can just break my own news, I'm Shohei. Look at this.
Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, at the same time, it seems like the world is going in the direction more and more of the newsbreaker types just because, you know, how do you get your news? I get mine through fucking Twitter. You know, I'm scrolling Twitter, you know, like everything on the next Dodgers great that I hope we sign Yamamoto. I mean, I'm scrolling Twitter, dude. I mean, I'll read The Athletic or whoever puts out a full-fledged thing later, but that's going to happen once. I'm checking Twitter fucking more than once, you know.
And to full circle, show myself as a hypocrite. Like, I've never, if I've fallen asleep before getting news, I've never missed out on the news. Yeah. But I still do want the news first.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
As soon as possible. I was banging the table like someone needs to tell me where Shohei's going right now.
Yeah. I mean, the only person I had to share it with was you. I called you as soon as I saw Shohei was signing. But still, I was like happy. I'm going to tell Silvers. Like, you're the only person I'm going to tell, but I'm happy to tell. You know, I told my dad 5 hours later when I saw him. But like, you know, you're the only person I needed to tell quickly, and but I don't know. It was still exciting for me.
It is like a very human thing. That's how they're winning. It's a very human thing to want to know something very soon, and then to want to share something as soon as possible too. Yeah. And that's where they've got us. They've got us right where they want us. There's nothing we can do about it. Yeah. Adam Schefter, he wins. He wins again.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I don't see any way out of this.
No. So, well, I don't know what else we have to cover. Is there anybody else you want to slam or praise?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Well, before we go, I think I mentioned last episode about my Grinchness, and so that there is some sort of conclusion. I did want to talk about how hard I fell running yesterday, because
okay.
If I'm not on my A game, if you've been like, Brandon seems exhausted, I was running a long ways for a long time, and my legs were tired, and I tripped downtown because the roads aren't very good. And it was a Looney Tunes-esque fall directly on my shoulder, and someone saw it happen, which is just not good. I'd much rather would have died.
Yeah.
And so I'm still rattled from this happening yesterday, and I have not gotten in the right state of mind since. It was just terrible. It was a terrible experience. Don't ever run. Don't ever fall.
A lot of times I will try, if I see something like that happen, I will look enough to make sure somebody's okay. But ideally, I will try not to let them know that I saw them fall, because that is the worst. Like, I think that's the best service you can do, is obviously help somebody if they need it. But if you know that they don't need it, don't let them know that you even saw it.
Man, it was so bad that the guy rolled his window down and was like,
"Oh shit! I saw you." I thought it was just somebody walking around near. That's the worst. Oh my god! Stop traffic for this.
Driving and pulled over and said, "Are you okay?"
Damn.
And I was not okay. I was not okay. But you know what I did? I lied, much like Pat McAfee does to us every day. And all I could do was I meekly gave a thumbs up. And then I just like defeatedly put my head down. It was very bad. So I think if I see that, I'm just going to roll down the window. I'm going to yell, "That was super cool." And then kind of boost the confidence back up.
Yeah.
And then keep it moving. So I had to get that off my chest. That's breaking news, something you would have known otherwise.
The one time I've fallen in public running, and we've established I don't run for exercise. I was running when I lived in Columbia. I was trying to make first pitch at Carolina baseball game. So I had to run from my apartment like a mile away to try to get back into first pitch. And I was just running up the sidewalk in like jeans and skateboard shoes, like my normal attire, just trying to run in this to get there. And I fell and just like fell hard and just rolled on the sidewalk.
No.
And there was a church letting out. So everybody was out of the church above. And they were far enough away that they weren't implicated, but they clearly saw me.
Yeah.
So like they didn't feel the need to help, probably, even though if anybody's going to help, it's going to be somebody just getting out of church, you would think. But it's not, they were far enough away that they could wash their hands of it, but I know they saw it.
That is a nightmare scenario, because like I was in a great deal of pain, but nothing hurt quite like my pride in that moment. And that's the first, like before I even really checked for injuries, the first thing I did, I tried to stand as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then I tried to look around to see who else saw me. Because if I fell hard enough for this man to pull over, then we're in a public place. Like, who else saw me? As though I'll ever see these people again.
Yeah.
But my God, it's just, there's nothing as bad as falling. Because I'm a guy who's been walking and running for a great deal of my life, and you think you have it under control until you don't.
Yeah.
And I've just been rattled ever since. That's why I came here and trashed McAfee.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten a lot better always reminding myself nobody gives a shit about me. There's nothing I can really do in public that anybody's going to care. You know, it's just, you
That's
know,
true.
everybody's got the main character syndrome somewhat. But yeah, I mean, that guy probably went home and told people how hard you fell, but like, you don't know those people either.
That's true.
So, you know,
but it all comes back to the attention economy. Like, if I were more shameless, I could make a whole sports show out of me falling repeatedly. Imagine if that was my new character. You just tuned in to see me fake fall in public.
Yeah.
2024. So now that I got that off my chest, what's left of my chest? So I left most of it on that sidewalk. This one's coming out before Christmas. So Merry Christmas to you all. The episodes will probably come out different times now because I don't want to release them on holidays because I want you to go enjoy your holiday. Not worry about having to talk to me or listen to me or see me. Enjoy your time with your family because you never know when you're going to kill yourself on a fucking sidewalk downtown. Yes. So, Merry Christmas, Brett. I will see you soon. Merry Christmas from Brett's sweater as well. Merry Christmas. I think it's the winter solstice today, right? It's the shortest day of the year. Thank God. We're on. Oh, man. This is good news. See, this has all turned out okay. Yep. Yeah. No more short days, longer days. Beautiful. All right. So I will catch y'all next week. And again, enjoy your holidays. Be safe. Do not run.